What's up, guys?
Hey, welcome to the NBC Nightly News. I love that song.
Anything going on tonight?
I'm just baking. You guys want some recipes?
What's going on, Jason?
Well, it looks like the Dodgers are cooking a lot of stuff there, Amy. they came up with hopefully a recipe for a World Series win in 2024.
Right? I mean, I guess we signed this guy. What's his name? I don't know. Little pitcher, maybe, I don't know, internationally known.
Yeah, across the pond somewhere.
So it looks like we got Yamamoto for 12 years, $325 million. Not too shabby. We've got some people joining the chat too. So looks like we got David Luna. What do we think about 325 for a pitcher? Again, guys, you know me, I'm a little more conservative on the spending. So we're at like what, 125 million at this point?
Yeah, I think I'm more. I mean, when you break it down on an annual salary, it's not a lot. I think it's under $30 million a year. And not much more than what we're paying probably Kershaw, what we paid him in the last year or so. I'm not sure what his contract was, 25 million lately. So I think 12 years is a lot. I'm more concerned about the length than anything else than the money. I mean, for a guy who's never pitched a day in the majors. And so that's a lot of years. But I guess if you get away from that, look, the bottom line is it's not our money, right? And so the Dodgers have it to spend. And the fact that they outbid the Yankees, and apparently the Yankees were right there at 300 million, and the Dodgers went one step further. They mean business. So they're, we are now officially the hated ones. I mean, we've been the hated ones, but this, I've never seen, I've never seen you can feel the tension among other cities and fans, and just not just fans, baseball aficionados all over the country, really not happy with what's been happening. But these things come in waves. I mean, we've seen this before. It's nothing new. It happens. The Yankees used to do it, and so here we are.
And right now, what we know is it's 12 years, 325 million. We don't know if there's any opt-outs. We know there's no deferrals, so he's going to get his money. It'd be interesting to see if there is opt-outs, because he is 25 years old.
Right.
And a lot of people are speculating, well, maybe he'd have an opt-out, maybe 3-4 years. He could go right in, test the market again, if he's having success. Right now, that's unknown. But, I mean, if it's 12 years, I mean, Dodgers are making them, pretty much a Dodger for life.
Right.
And who knows if the Dodgers put in some opt-outs for themselves, too. Maybe there's a mutually beneficial contract in there. Looks like we've got a lot of people joining the chat. We've got Dave Luna, J Raider Nation, Dennis Gonzalez. Thanks, guys, for all hopping in at the last minute. Philip Lopez, Pablo XH34, Michael Carrillo, Hillary, Simeon, Jose Ayala. We got a lot of people in here.
Another thing I did see was it seemed that the Mets did offer the same 12 years, 325 million, and then he went back to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers matched that. So, I mean, it seems like he wanted to be a Dodger from the start. He was a Dodger fan, and then the ties today, we were hearing there was a rumor that he was going to be at the SoFi game, and then all of a sudden, like, nope, he's not going to be there. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Maybe, they knew this deal was going to happen, tonight, or was moving really quickly, and they didn't want to put any more, speculation into what was going on.
And speaking of the Rams, I don't know if you saw, but the Rams jumped on it very quickly. And just about 5 minutes ago on their Instagram, they posted a Yamamoto Rams jersey on the field. So already, they were on it. You got to give them a lot of credit. But hey, look, this is exciting times. It really, really is. And people can talk about the money and where's the money coming from. Look, the bottom line is this too. Kershaw's not signed right now. So as of right now, that comes off the books. If Urias would have been the Urias of old and things would have gone better for him, this would have probably been his contract. I don't know if he would have gotten 12 years, but he probably would have gotten 8 or 9 years around the same amount, 30 million or so a year, right? So he's not in the picture anymore. So before folks start saying, where do they get all this money? I mean, it was in the plans to spend this if we can, and this is what we're doing now in Yamamoto and securing that. And so it's too bad. I keep telling everyone I'm excited, but I'm also bummed that we won't see Yamamoto on the mound, because could you imagine that rotation this year?
Shohei.
I'm sorry, Shohei. Right, 2025. It's going to.
I was like, wait, what? Did we not break news?
What's going on? Sorry, had a few too many at SoFi. But no, it'll 25 is going to be exciting, but 2024. We needed this. We really needed an anchor. We needed a potential ace. In my opinion, we don't have an ace. We have a lot of number 2 starters, and I think it's up to Brad's really who the number 1 pitcher will be going in. Really, this is exciting stuff.
And
And
I
this is
think
what we've been clearing the payroll for the last year, 2 years, even last year where we weren't even supposed to be contenders. We went ahead and won 100 games, but that's why we didn't go big last
Right.
offseason. Even though everybody was super disappointed that we were so quiet, it has more than made up for it at this point because it seems like every week we have a new announcement.
I think now we're finally starting to see what, for many years since Guggenheim took over, a lot of people were saying like, oh, the Dodgers are the Yankees right out in the West Coast, right? And they've spent money, but they haven't really gone after those, or maybe they have gone after those big free agents, but they haven't landed them. And now when they got Ohtani, right, and he cleared all that space for them, now they're actually showing, hey, you know what? We're going to go out there. This is the guy we want, and we're going to go get him, right? I mean, you're outbidding the Yankees, right? They topped out at 300, and he's choosing L.A. over New York, right? He didn't want to play with the Mets. He's picking the bright lights of L.A., right?
It's kind of hard though when you see the team that the Dodgers have been building around him. Though he's coming. I mean, he played with Shohei in the WBC. We've got all of our superstar contenders. Plus, we don't have a bad team. Even our B-list guys they put up some numbers. So at least he knows he's coming to a team that it's coming together.
Right, it is, and I think if we're healthy, I think that's always the magic word, the magic phrase is health. But if this team is healthy and these pitchers get back on track, and you have the Dustin Mays and you have Buehler and these folks back, boy, oh boy, we could really create something special. Right, this is where we were really handicapped going towards the end of the season, was with our rotation, and now you've got to be really excited about where they're at right now and what's happening. So. Someone just posted with the signing of Yamamoto, the Dodgers still considering Kershaw. I don't know if we want to jump on that, but I'm really curious to see what folks think about where does this leave Kershaw.
And thanks, Francisco, for that super chat. I mean, yeah, I've been seeing that too a lot with Kershaw. I still think Kershaw is definitely in play. I mean, right now you've still got. I mean, you have a rotation, but I think Kershaw, if he comes back, it's going to be mid-season, and he's not going to require a lot of innings, right? And who knows where they're at, mid-season, like you said. So I think Kershaw still is in play, and especially now, seeing what's going on with the Dodgers. I mean, I think this is something Kershaw is going to find very attractive, and he's going to want to come back to this.
I don't think there's a situation where Kershaw, unless he retires altogether, I don't think there's a situation where he doesn't come back and the Dodgers don't bring him back. There's some deal that will be made because you obviously want him to retire as a Dodger, but how do you pass up again the quality of the team that they're building around him? And I mean, that's what we're seeing in the chat right now. J Raider Nation, the Dodgers have assembled the Avengers. We're seeing that a lot of comments are basically bolstering what you guys are saying.
Hey, Philip Lopez in the chat. Juan, I don't know where that guy's at. Every time news breaks, I can never find that dude. So you got to hit him up. This is the second time. Shohei, I couldn't find the dude. Now Yamamoto, I can't find him again. So
he's living his life. Oh man, it looks so many comments right now. Everybody wants to play with Ohtani, the Ohtani effect. Broman 74, dude. Pressure is on, but Dodgers ready for it. Let's go.
Let me throw this out there because I know I'm going to get a lot of haters on this chat, but I'm used to it already by now. If you've listened to the show when I'm on before,
you want to bring back Syndergaard?
No, I that would be funny. But do we need Kershaw or do we want Kershaw? That's the question I posed. I'll start it off by upsetting a few folks. I don't want him back. I don't think we need him back. I don't see why we sign him back. I just don't see it. I want to see him retire a Dodger. In my perfect world, Kershaw would have announced his retirement at the end of the season and he retires as a Dodger. But the guy really, really, really wants to play. I can't blame him for wanting to play again after, the way the last season ended. I mean, it really leaves a bad taste in your mouth if you're an athlete, I think, the way things ended for him. But, at the end of the day, the Dodgers got to think for the Dodgers, and you got to take your heart out of this and think with your head and think with your pocketbook. And do we need him? Do we want him? Or are we just saying, let's sign him back because, oh, golly, we really want to see him go out one last time as a Dodger? I don't know. I think you move on from that. I hate to see him take up a spot where potentially someone else could fill in, and then we see the same thing happen again in the postseason. again, and we've seen it time and time again. And I don't mean to be the guy to doom and gloom on a very celebratory evening, but I want to throw it out there.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Roger.
Just real quick. I think, like you said, I don't think Kershaw wants to go out the way he did, and I think the Dodgers don't want to see him go out the way he did.
Right.
So if he wants to come back, I think they're going to give him that opportunity. Kershaw, Hall of Famer, Dodger, right? And I think if he wants to come out, they want to let him go out on his own terms, right? If he wants to retire, let him retire. But if he wants to play that one more season with the Dodgers, I think they're going to let him do it.
Well, and I think this would be the ideal season to let him do it, right? He's not going to be going for the entire stretch. He'd be coming back August, probably more likely September. So if you're going to have him come back, have him at least come back with a little bit fresher arm instead of starting, he can't, but it's not like he's going a whole year. So maybe he has a little bit more juice in the tank to finish stronger and kind of take the taste out of your mouth from what happened last year.
And coming back from the injury too. I don't know if this would even be something that'd be considered, but what if Kershaw comes out of the pen, right?
I was thinking the same thing. With
the injury, right? Maybe he's a guy that's coming out of the pen, getting them some outs in the 7th, 8th inning. You never know. I guess we'll have to wait and see till we get to that point in the season.
And back to your roster spot thing, though, we're still carrying Treinen and Bayerson. So, like, if we're gonna carry somebody, I'd rather carry Kersh than we haven't even seen Treinen pitch since 2021. He had that blip. What was it, 2022? But we didn't even see him last year.
This leaves us without a lefty in the rotation, right? The starting rotation.
Right now, just Yarbrough. If they're going to use Yarbrough in the rotation, I'm kind of thinking maybe Yarbrough is a guy that they use as a piggyback somehow. Like, if they find a way, if they're using Sheehan or if they're using, Grove or anybody, right? I think he's going to be somebody that maybe they put in that piggyback role because I think they found success with that last season, and maybe they want to carry that over into this season.
Because at this point, we're looking at you've got Glass. Wow, why can I not speak? Glass now. You've got Miller, Yamamoto. Potentially Buehler. We're still waiting to see if he gets built up enough to be on that starting rotation on opening day, or are they going to limit his pitches? And then you've got, like you're saying, are we piggybacking like Sheehan, Yarbrough, Stone, Grove? What is that going to look like?
We have folks on here that are saying that we should get rid of Barnes. What do you all think about that?
A
couple different folks. I'm not against it, but I'm curious. I'm surprised by it.
It is going to be interesting because a lot of people have said, Barnes has been, pretty much Kershaw's personal catcher. So if Kershaw's not there, what's going to happen with Barnes, right? It is, they are in a roster crunch, right? They're adding guys, right? So they're going to have to make trades. They're going to have to either move guys or DFA guys because they're in that spot right now where it's like they're going to need roster spots, and obviously there's going to be guys that are going to go.
He had a rough season last year, like really couldn't find his stride. He's great as a backup catcher. He knows how to call a game, but when it comes to those plate appearances, it was lacking. So is this the season where you let Fiducia come up and take his shot and he kind of bolsters Will Smith out there?
Let's see. Going to the chat here.
Looking through some of these. A lot of Barnes is washed. It's Fiducia's time now. Michael Carrillo.
Dennis Gonzalez, same thing. Everybody wants to see Kershaw get 3,000 strikeouts with the Dodgers, right? So that's one of the big things that they want to get him to that mark.
Seeing a couple comments in here so we can make a roster spot for Kike. I'm on board with that. Having him play utility out in the field. He can cover for Muncy at third or spell him when he needs to come off the bench. So I'm still fingers crossed that Kike comes back. Let's see. A lot of people saying your question was legit, Jason. Keeping it real. Kershaw won't be a top 3 to 4 rotation. He'll be 5. So that's good for him. We need to play the young guys like Miller, Broman 74 dude.
Well, and I like the idea of bringing up Fiducia. I think it is time. I think you could make an argument that a guy like Fiducia could do what Austin Barnes does. Now, I've said this before on this show. I like the way he calls games. I think Austin Barnes calls a better game. I think he's a smarter catcher than Will Smith behind the plate in terms of calling games. And I think that's why he's been Austin Barnes, Kershaw's, personal catcher, so to speak. He does call a good game, but he can't hit. And so it's a little bit of a liability when he comes up to bat. I think a team will take him. I think if you can trade Barnes, and sure get something for him. But we've had a couple of good young catchers come through the system, and here we have Austin Barnes taking up space for some guys that I'm sure would love to take up that space, and perhaps, you never know, could do as well as Will Smith. I mean, we've been bringing up some good catchers to the system the last few years, so I think it might be a good time to exercise that.
Well, and he's not so great at throwing people out at second either, and that's what you need in a catcher. It's great to call a good game, but you also need to be able to throw people out. A lot more people are stealing now with the bases and everything. We need to be able to bolster that too.
So a couple questions from the chat. Emmanuel Otto is asking, Giolito, 15 million for 1 year, an innings eater, and then also about the bullpen. David Garcia is asking, are we happy with the bullpen? That's kind of where I'm still wondering, like, is there another starter that they're looking at, especially a lefty? I'm thinking they might go after a lefty, left-handed starter. And then in the bullpen, are they done with the bullpen? I mean, there's been talk about them going after Hader, right? So those are kind of the two areas maybe that we still see. And I don't know if they still want to address also the right-handed bat for the outfield, or is Margot the answer for that?
No.
And we got to shift a lot of people around on this roster if we're going to bring.
I want to go back to that. That's right. Easy. Margot is no good, and he was just thrown in there. Do
you think he's a trade chip?
Absolutely, maybe. Who wants him? I don't know. I don't think so. Look at pull up his numbers. There's nothing impressive about Margot's number. He's a bench player. My biggest concern right now, and I think I said this the last time I was on here, is the outfield. Our outfield. We really don't have. When you move Mookie Betts now into the second base position, look at your outfield. You have Chris Taylor, who's not an everyday player in my book. Outman right now is your everyday player. He's earned it, right? And so I'm expecting to get at least what we got out of him this year. So I'm happy with him. But you got Jason Hayward. I like Jason Hayward. I'm glad that they signed him. He's not going to give you half a season. He'll be out there 40, 50 games a year. So you need another outfielder. It's definitely not Margot. I don't know who. I mean, I think we would like to see a Rosarena, but we do need another outfielder. I think that's where the missing piece there. I'm okay with the infield. I'm not a big. I think at third base we're lacking a little bit there, but I think we need another strong outfielder, and if I think we can fill that gap, then we're in good shape. If not, I would try to find a second baseman and put Mookie back out there in the outfield if that's the case. But something has to give. I don't like the fact that we don't have Mookie in the outfield. That bugs me a little bit. I don't know.
I think Mookie playing second, I think that's something that they're doing because I think they want to prolong his career as well, right? I mean, he's still got a number of years of dart. So they want to kind of keep him off his feet. Second base is a little bit, maybe not as he's not moving around as much as an outfield and running around after fly balls, right? So I think that's why they made that move for Mookie. And, Doc already said he's going to be the primary second baseman. So they are going to have Jason Hayward at least 50% of the time in the outfield, right? So they do have to find someone else that they can switch in right field.
We've got some chat, Bader, Kiermaier, Teoscar Hernandez. Let's see.
Teoscar Hernandez is a name that we've been hearing a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there's a lot of people getting floated in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, we need somebody. It looks like Margot, he played in 99 games last year. He definitely not the whole season. Looks like he had a 264 batting average. Not bad, but
so Jason,
no power.
Jason, the question in the chat, I think this is a good one for you. David Garcia, do you think Yamamoto and Ohtani show up at a Lakers game, maybe on Christmas?
I don't care. I want to be at that game on Monday. How about if Jason shows up to the game? I think there's a very good possibility that they're at the game. I mean, right? Christmas Day against Boston. I think it's a really good chance that you can see both of them there. So,
and I think we're already seeing the effect of like Ohtani in the real LA, right? I mean, he was at a Rams game today.
Yeah,
he was in LA, or technically in Southern California, right? No, see, for 6 years, did he ever go to a Rams game? Not that we know of, right? Not that he was on the field participating, pregame. I mean, so we're seeing that effect of LA already with Ohtani. And I think same thing with Yamamoto. He was at a Lakers game a couple weeks back, So I think we're going to start seeing these guys out there in LA, in the community, seeing what LA is all about.
Well, and they're even stepping up even for some of the signings. Like he reached out to Glass now. He probably reached out to Yamamoto. So Otani was probably a big factor in some of those
Let
decisions
Otani,
too.
right?
But I mean, he's being an ambassador for the team, and he's only been here for a couple weeks. So
Yeah. And I think that's playing huge and right in what Otani did, right? He deferred all that money. He said, "Hey, I'm going to take $2 million for you guys to go out and put a team around us, right? And I'm not going to let my money be a deterrent to building this team." And it's showing, right? Dodgers said, "Okay, you know what? We're going to go out there." And now they went and got the best free agent pitcher on the market.
mhm. Yeah, that was my biggest concern, was tying up all of that money and not getting pieces around him.
Right.
And so the fact that, he did defer that, that's made way for, even Yamamoto. He's locked down for 12 years. Like that, I mean, what an awesome opportunity for that kid.
If you're Dave Roberts, are you feeling the pressure right about now? I think you have to, because this is it, right? You got to win. You have
And he's
to
got
win.
one more year on his contract, I
Yeah,
think.
and he knows this is it. I think if there's this is going to sound really bad, but I think if there's one person that's actually really nervous right now, it's him. I'll be honest with you. If I'm Dave Roberts, I'm excited, but I'm also low key nervous because I know this is it. If I don't get at least get to the World Series, he's done. He's absolutely done. It is a done deal. And I wouldn't be surprised if that conversation has already happened with ownership and with the powers that be behind closed doors. Like this, hey, dude, we gave you a team here. This is yours to lose now, right? And I think this is it for him. And so I think the pressure has never been higher, and the stakes haven't been higher for a manager that I can remember.
I mean, Dodgers are the hands-on favorite now, right? On the World Series odds, they're up there, and even before they signed Yamamoto, right? Now you add
Right.
Yamamoto to that. I mean, you still have teams that are good, right? The Braves, very good, talented team as well. But I mean, I think right now the Dodgers are the team to beat. So they're gonna have a lot of expectations on them.
And in his
Absolutely.
favor, I mean, he has a pretty stellar front office behind him. So whether he gets blamed for the decisions or they all make them together, that's something we've always speculated on. I mean, he's still got like the biggest stat heads working on his behalf to help come up with good rosters. All right, what do we need to do? So Michael Carrillo, if we fire Roberts, this team is way better. Francisco Avila, this team became Dave Roberts proof he has to win. So a lot of people bolstering what you guys are already saying. Hillary, is this making way for Turner to get in at a managerial training position? People are clamoring to have JT come back, whether that's on the team or in like a coaching or a management position. That would clear the way for him.
So Dennis Gonzalez, all of New York City is salty tonight, and I'm starting to see that too. Like, right, everybody was in on Shohei, right? Everybody was in on Yamamoto, right? And now those teams don't get them, and like, Shohei, that's too much money, right? And the same thing they're gonna be saying to Yamamoto, nah, that's way too much money, right? Kind of like now it's and I'm seeing Dodgers are ruining baseball. Like, how are they ruining baseball? Because they're using their money.
I've been
right?
hearing a lot
And
of
I've
that.
said this before, like even small market teams, they have money. Their owner just doesn't want to spend it. Like if their owners actually wanted to spend that money, they could use it to go get players, but they don't. They choose to pocket that money themselves and be like, oh, we don't have that type of money.
Well, and I think the Dodgers are becoming what, not to switch sports on people here, but what the LA Lakers, I think at one point were. And when I say were, I don't want to upset any folks in Lakerland, only because I think basketball, ever since they changed their new collective bargaining agreement years ago, it's leveled the playing field, right? And so now a lot of teams have the opportunity to play, and I think that's what people in baseball are, why people are upset at baseball, right? That there's not that parity. But when there wasn't, I mean, this was the Lakers of the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, where people wanted to play for LA because of this type of stuff, because of the big moves that we would make in LA, right? They wanted to play with Shaq. They wanted to play with Magic. And so we didn't have a hard time signing people because you wanted to be a Laker. I think the Dodgers are seeing that now. They've been seeing that over the last few years, and we're seeing it more and more. People want to be a Dodger. They could have been a Met and made the same amount of money, or the Giants competed, the Mets competed, the Yankees competed, a number of teams competed for these guys. But at the end of the day, they really wanted to be a Dodger. And it sounds like Yamamoto's agent Yamamoto might have told his agent, look, I want the Dodgers to have the final say. If they're willing to match the offer, that's where I'm going. And that's probably what happened. That last phone call went to Friedman and said, hey, 325, and he's yours. Done. And that's probably how it went down. And so it's when you win, and for a lot of criticism the Dodgers have taken for not winning a lot of World Series in the last 10 years or whatever, I'd argue we are the best team, and we have been the best team in baseball in the last 10, 11, or 12 years or so. I really believe that. We've made the World Series 3 times. That's a very difficult thing to do. And so, you're not always going to win, and I know we want to, but this is an organization who has been among the best in sports, and that's why players want to be here, and it's trickling down. And so it's exciting. It's very exciting, and then we're going to be the hated ones for a little bit, but it's you wish your team was on that side. I mean, look at the Angels where they're at now. Their biggest signing was Ron Washington. And so, and I mean, that's really it, and you feel bad almost for a team like that. Not really, but just a little.
Well, and sometimes like it is about the money too, right? People are going to go to the team that they want to, who's going to give them the most money. But at the end of the day, like you also don't want to be like a Mike Trout. Like he's in Anaheim. He's apparently happy where he's at, but he doesn't have a team around him that's going to help him get to the World Series. So some may say he's languishing, and that is kind of the case where, okay, do I go to the Mets, who just sold off some of their bigger players after they had like a pretty caliber roster last year? Do they have the potential to make it all the way, or do I go with the Dodgers, who I know are every year it's pretty much guaranteed they're going to get in on a wild card, or they're going to get in on their own merit? So we're going to be the hated ones no matter what. Everybody was on board with Ohtani. Everybody was on board with Yamamoto until they signed with the Dodgers. And now you flip the script, and now everybody is like, they weren't really that cool anyway.
And with Yamamoto too, there was a lot of talk that he wanted the big, like he wanted the lights, right? He wanted to be in a big market. He wanted the lights. He's come off of, playing in the Japan World Series, right? Their World Series. He's won their version of the Cy Young. So he's ready for that spotlight, right? And when you think of, okay, LA, New York, I mean, we talked about this last night in the live, like, okay, he's coming to LA. Dodgers just landed Shohei Ohtani. What are some of the biggest series where the lights are going to be the brightest? It's going to be a Dodger games, right? They're going to start in Korea. How many eyes are going to be on that series in Korea with the Padres, right? How many eyes are going to be on the Dodgers just when they show up at spring training on opening day, when they play the Yankees, when they go to Toronto? I mean, I think the lights are going to be bright in LA. The lights are going to be bright in LA when the Dodgers make that first postseason game, right? Of Shohei Ohtani's first postseason game. I mean, I think this is the spot. If he wants the bright lights, I think he's going to get them in LA over New York.
Yeah, we've got a question in the chat from Francisco Avila. How many World Series do the Dodgers need to win for this not to be a failure? So if we've got Ohtani for 10, we've got Yamamoto for 12, the balance of Mookie and Freddie's contracts. What do you guys think?
So I'll jump in really quick. Freddie Freeman is turning 34 years old when the season starts, or he's 34 now, something like that. And so in theory, he should start to decline. We didn't get that this past year, so he might give us as good a year. But he is at the latter part of his career. So I think we need to take advantage of Freddie Freeman for another 2. He might have 2-3 good years in him, and then we'll start to see the decline. And that's the bad thing about these big contracts is you're giving large contracts, but you're only expecting the player to be good for about half of it. That's what happened to Albert Pujols. So if you don't take advantage of these guys in the next 4 or 5 years, it's already a bust because now they're at mid-30s or so. Same thing with Mookie Betts. He's on the wrong side of 30. And so a lot of these guys, so you don't have the 10 years really. I see it personally. You have about 5 years to capitalize on this thing. And if you don't capitalize with at least 2 World Series championships in the next 5 or 6 years, it's already a bust because it gets really difficult. Now, Yamamoto is still a kid. He's 25. That's a different story. But the rest of these guys, you got to win now because they're not in their mid-20s anymore. And Freddie Freeman, it's a lot of pressure at his age to really expect him to be able to put up these numbers, which makes it, to me, all that more phenomenal what he was able to do, and hopefully continues to keep himself in shape and that way continue to just do what he does. But in theory, I think you only have a short window, not these 10 years that I think fans are thinking of right now, even with a guy like Ohtani.
I'll take the mantle for Juan since the Prince of Darkness isn't here. Now, do you think that 2 World Series championships is optimistic, considering not a knock on the Dodgers, but because no team has really done it back to back? Like, it's not something that happens, not necessarily back to back, but won multiples. I think San Francisco's been the last one that's done it kind of every other year.
Yeah,
but
3 and 5 years.
Not many people
as back
do
to
that.
Back, right? It was the Yankees.
I think like early 2000s.
Yeah.
But even not back to back, that's me misspeaking. But like 2 in the next, let's say, decade. Do you think that's reasonable?
and we mentioned this too, and I know Cody said on an episode, he said when we signed just Shohei, one in that time frame makes it worthwhile, right? And when looking back at how baseball is, right, like teams to win back to back, it is so hard to repeat as a champion in any sport, and in baseball, I think it's even harder. But I agree. Okay, yeah, you have to get one, right? But I mean, I'm looking at if they get three, I think it's going to be a success. Obviously, a dynasty. But the thing too, also when you said, okay, yeah, maybe in the next 5 years, but I think this is a long term plan. Like, yeah, they got these guys for the next couple of years, but you don't think that they're adding more guys next year and the year after that and the year after. I think that's something that they told Shohei. You know what? You're taking that pay cut. We're going to continue to add to this team every year that you're here. We're going to continue to make this team stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
So this could be a window of 10, 15 years. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what the Dodgers have put themselves in that position. They're here to win long term.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the Dodgers made the World Series 3 out of 4 years. 3 out of 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so back-to-back years in 17 and 18. I think sometimes as fans we forget about that alone is very difficult. And in 17, they were 1 game away. I mean, I don't mean to sound so, idealistic, but they were really literally just 1 game away, and this conversation would be completely different, right? And so when you look at it that way, it's very difficult, but we've seen them do it. They had very good teams. My issue, not to go veer off on a different topic, is the more Major League Baseball continues to expand the number of teams that make the playoffs, we're going to continue to see what I call these fluke teams have these fluke 3 or 4 weeks, a la Arizona Diamondbacks, that will do this. Because in baseball, I've always said, is the flukiest of all the sports. You can pretty much predict in the NBA right now who's going to be in the NBA finals, or at least the conference finals for each, and you just can't do a T. In basketball, the number 8 almost never will beat the number 1. Almost never. But in baseball, it happens all too often, because in any given day, in any given weekend, anybody can win 2 out of 3, right? And so that's what makes it so hard, I think. Baseball is that one sport that's very difficult to predict and to control, no matter if you have a super team, but if you're one pitcher up on that mound is just not having the right game, everything is thrown out. So it's hard. It's very hard. It's almost unfair to put that much pressure on any team, no matter how good they are. But at the very least, we don't expect to try to get bounced in the first round, right? We got to find a way to compete all the way to the end, at least, and be competitive and not be laughed at.
Well, I'm going to hop on that soapbox with you, because I think it's becoming more and more like, okay, great, you won 100 games, 105 games, whatever it is. That doesn't matter anymore, because the wild card has expanded so much. You're diluting the pool. But
so here's an update from Jeff Passan. So he's saying Yamamoto's deal includes a pair of opt-outs. Sources tell ESPN. It doesn't say when or when those would occur. So pending physical, 12 years, $325, includes a $50 million signing bonus, no deferred money, and additional $50.6 million posting fee. So it appears there are a pair of opt-outs, and that I don't see that those have been listed as to when those are. So keep an eye out.
Or if it's his opt-out or the team's opt-out. Right. So we don't even know which. Maybe it's one of each. Maybe they're both his. Who knows?
I don't mind that. I think that's good. I don't mind that at all.
I mean,
the guy's a young guy. He's 25, and
so it's smart. It's smart on Yamamoto's part,
sure.
Right? If he, with all the buildup that he has, if he comes over and he's an ace, like he's projected to be. If he's an ace and he comes out and he dominates this year, dominates next year, wins a Cy Young or 2, if he has an opt out at maybe 3-4 years, he's at 29. It's smart. It's a smart bet. Hey, go out and test the market again.
Absolutely.
And he's going to make more than what he signed for right now.
Yeah.
And we have the option to lock him down at that point too. So if we can come to a mutually beneficial agreement, the opt-outs are moot and he stays with the team and continues to produce. So, there's a lot of options there.
I saw a thing earlier today with our guy Doug over at Dodgers Nation. He was talking to Jose Mota, and Mota was saying that Yamamoto, he's an ace on any team. He's coming over, just what he's bringing. He's an ace on any team, and right now, especially with the Dodgers, like we don't know, right, who that ace is going to be. Yeah, Walker Buehler, right, but depends on what he's going to bring, right, coming off of his second Tommy John. Bobby Miller is emerging as that ace, right? But are we ready to put him in that ace spot, right? If Yamamoto comes in, you got Yamamoto, you got Bobby Miller, Walker Buehler, right? And then we'll see. People are talking already about next year. Then you have Shohei there,
And you've got Glass now too.
and Glass now, right? So, this year that rotation is getting pretty filthy, but people are looking at next year. That rotation is going to be really filthy, right? Especially if you re-sign Walker Buehler next year, right? Because he's a free agent at the end of this year.
Well, and you've got Sheehan coming up too. So people will say he had a rocky year this year, but for a rookie coming up from AA, he did a pretty good job getting through the year. He had a couple fits and spurts, but that's to be expected. He's a rookie coming up on the baseball's biggest stage. Like, the fact that he held his own pretty well, that's admirable, and I think he can only get better, especially with our team, the coaching staff behind him.
Who's your opening day starter? Opening day was this weekend. Because let's face it.
Do you put in Yamamoto just for because we don't really have it's not like you're hurting somebody's feelings at this point. You don't have Kershaw that you're bumping.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like,
no one's earned
for the last 10, 12 years, you kind of, okay, it was Kershaw, right? This year, we're going to see what happens in spring training, right? Is it Bobby Miller, right? At the end of last season, I was thinking, yeah, Bobby Miller is probably your opening day starter. But right now, we don't know. If Walker Buehler's ready to go on opening day, does he get the ball, right? Or do they give it to Yamamoto right off the bat?
A few folks online here are saying Yamamoto. Yeah, they're saying Yamamoto. And for no other reason than maybe, well, one, he's very good, but also the media attention around him, right, would be tremendous.
Just the novelty of it.
JR just said Lance Lynn gave up another home run, and Anthony Rendon just got put on the IL. So typical, right, for this time of year, right?
Oh, jeez.
We're off to a good start then.
I'm interested to see what Gavin Stone is actually going to bring this year. I know last year he had a rough start, but he was one of those guys that we talked to prior to the year starting last year that a lot of people were very big on Gavin Stone, right? They had him with Bobby Miller kind of being 1-2 guys. So I don't know if that first year, in the show for Gavin Stone, is going to help him, how much it's going to help him to be able to regroup, because I'm very interested to seeing what he's going to bring. I think he can still be one of those guys that's right up there at the top of that rotation.
I think there's a good chance they trade him, to be honest with you. I think the Dodgers are feeling pretty good about where they're at. I think they see some holes still in the lineup. And I think if I'm other teams, I'm now making phone calls with the Dodgers now that they've made these signings, that there's some vulnerability there, right? There's some rookies, some people down in AAA or in AA that they may want to trade. I think Stone may be the guy that they can dangle for a missing piece that they want, right? Another bat.
Well, that's if they want to get rid of pitching, right? They still got they still got Bush and Vargas, right? And those guys are big question marks, right? As far as like Diego Cartaya, right? You don't know what's going to happen with those guys, and it seems like there's really no place for Bush or Vargas, right? Unless you're going to put them out in left field. So I think those are definitely trade chips if they want to go ahead and maybe. I don't know if are they still in a trade for like Dylan Cease, right? Are they going to go after that route? Or, we were talking about Luzardo yesterday, right? Are they going to go that route? Like, I think there's still moves to be made. And I think after everything the Dodgers have done so far, I think there's still more moves that are going to continue to come.
Boatman Dennis Gonzalez said that Syndergaard blew another lead too. So,
oh, there you go. My goodness, my poor Syndergaard.
Michael Bush should be dealt and given a chance somewhere else, because that's the challenge too with any of these minor league guys is a lot of them they're getting older. They're in their prime right now where they could benefit another team, where on our team they kind of get swallowed up in that mess, where another team they're going to stand out, like the Luke Rayleighs and even some of the other people that have gone before. I think Kyle Farmer, he's doing well on his other teams. So
right. Michael Negrete made a good point that the Dodgers have 2 opening days this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
We've got JR saying trade CT3, Margot, Barnes, Stone, and Grove. Add Stone and Grove so teams take on the major leaguers.
I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, you got to give up something to get something strong. Maybe this is where you go back and see if a Rosarena is still out there and still available.
I mean, he still had those posts on, was it Instagram and Twitter, where, you know, he was putting up his stuff with Ohtani himself, and a lot of people were saying it was a cry for help. So is he an option for us still?
I mean, getting back to the point that Jason, you were making earlier about like the Lakers, right? They were that when they had Shaq, and it was like people wanted to play for the Lakers, right? And I still think, guys wanted to play like for the Dodgers, but I think now seeing what they've done this offseason, right? They went out and got Shohei, right? They got the best available free agents that were on the market. Like, there's going to be other guys that you be like, you know what? I want to go play on that team. That team is definitely building something, and it's not just like we're saying, it's not just 1 year, it's not 2 years. I think this is something that 5-10 years, this team that they're putting together is going to be a team, for the long haul.
Right. And there's been stability in this organization. So not just what you see on the field, but in terms of management, whether you like Dave Roberts or not, or whether you like Andrew Friedman or not, or ownership, there's been a stable ownership, leadership team, and management all the way through for several years. I think that means a lot to players when they sign somewhere as well. And look, there hasn't been any drama really for the most part. Now, you got the Julio Urias issue, and of course you had help me out Trevor Bauer as well, but Dodgers took care of that, right? And so that's a whole different story. But behind the scenes there, I think the word is out. I think you mentioned it earlier, Amy, how we have the brainiacs behind the scenes that are putting together the lineups. The Dodgers will spare no expense at getting some of the best baseball minds out there, some of the best trainers out there, facility upgrades, stadium upgrades, and so it's there. People know we're a good organization to play for. And so I think that has a lot to do for wanting to come down to Los Angeles. Makes up for all the issues with taxes and things like that and how expensive it is to live out here. But I think they overall, it's a very strong organization that people want to play for now.
And remember,
and for all the Dave Roberts haters, this
players love
question is still out there. Well, but it's also, who are you going to get that's better than Dave Roberts right now out there? The players love him. He is a player's manager. Like, he does hold the team together. We've heard it in some of the dugout interviews, like the mentality that he has. I'm just curious, like, who would be better? I know, like I said, I know a lot of people don't like his tactics, but who would you get to replace him?
You're going to get a whole list right now. Benji Gill. Here we go. You opened up Pandora's box.
No, but that's why we have our chat. That's why, let us know, guys. Who do you think would be better?
And remember too, also, as we're thinking long term for the Dodgers. Remember, Shohei put in that what they call key man clause, right? Of Friedman and Mark Walter being in charge of the Dodgers, right? Or else, if one of those guys goes, Shohei can say, you know what, I'm out of here, right? So I think that's going to be very important too, right? In the next 10 years going forward, right? Because I don't think the Dodgers are going to want to lose Shohei. So
Phil Jackson. I say we should go after a Japanese manager. That would complete the triangle and the trifecta here. Get to sign a manager from the Japanese league and bring him out here to coach the Dodgers. That'd be fun.
We've got
the reverse of Mr. Baseball, right?
I mean, just an option. You're saying Benji Gill's Ohtani's best friend. I would love to have Benji Gill somehow, on this staff, with Dave, if he was his bench coach or something, or somebody in there as well. I mean, Benji Gill, I think he has a great mind for baseball. We've seen his success over in the Mexican League, and he's there now again. And he's managing the Chatos, I believe. So I mean, he's had success over there, and he had success with WBC Team Mexico, right? Took him right up to the semifinals. So I think Benji Gill, if he gets hired somewhere on as a manager, it'd be a great hire. But I would love to see him in the Dodgers organization somehow.
I keep seeing Chase Utley, and that's a name I've always wanted to see in a Dodger uniform again at some capacity.
You see,
him and JT together as like co-managers.
You see, I see those names too, like Chase Utley too, but I've never heard Chase Utley saying that he has a desire to do that. Right? I mean, has anybody ever heard that? So like people, they throw out that name, but I've never seen him actually say he has a desire to manage.
He did have aspirations, but he also wants to be there for his kids while they're growing up right now. So you have those two competing needs, and it's like, okay, do I go commit myself to 8, 9, 10 months out of the year while my kids are at a pivotal age? And so I definitely get the pull, but I think he has mentioned in the past that he would be open to that. You've got Philip Lopez saying, do you think the Dodgers trade for Corbin Burns? Do you think the Brewers let him go?
See, now that Shohei is off, Yamamoto was off. Now I think is when we start seeing, okay, are the Brewers going to trade Corbin Burns, right? Are the White Sox going to trade Dylan Cease, right? Or now I think we're going to start seeing Snell get picked up. I think
Oh,
we're going to
sure.
start seeing now the guys that missed out. Like, I mean, it didn't look like Snell had a huge market, right? I was hearing that Anaheim is interested in him, right? I think that's going to pick up now for him. Probably the two New York teams are probably going to look at him now. So I think now it's going to open the doors for these other guys, and we're going to start seeing those signings.
And luckily, Cody's not here right now because his eyes would roll so far back into his head about that, about us potentially picking him up. So we'll save him that eye surgery. Let's see. Bottom line, it depends. Whoever Ohtani wants, period. From Broman74 dude.
This is a question for you, Amy, because you're a season ticket holder. Blue22 wants to know how much are Dodgers season tickets now?
Well, so our tickets were set in stone because we pay a year in advance. So like mine are already paid at this point. So I guess it depends on where you're sitting.
So I wonder if they're gonna go up, like say from like you if you already purchased, like I wonder if now like
it would be next year that we would see the increase if that happened because we've already they start the renewals in like July and August, and then you've got them paid off between September and February.
I'm wondering if they're going to bring back Yoshinoya the same way they did when we signed Hideo Nomo back in the 90s. Anyone else remember that? They put a Yoshinoya at Dodger Stadium in the 90s after they signed Hideo Nomo. Interesting. Now the food's got to change now because we have two Japanese players now. It'll be very interesting to see what this is how good we have it, folks. And we're not talking about the food and the concessions at Dodger Stadium.
JR said he has good seats by the bullpen. He'll send us videos when he warms up.
Micheladas now 500. Micheladas with sake now. Sake cheladas.
Right? Dodger dogs 1,000. Yeah.
I love Nomo too. I think that was, Hideo Nomo, just to kind of harp on that for a little bit. I say that with some tongue in cheek, but I remember the nostalgia behind signing Hideo Nomo, and we're talking about the early 90s. So these things, no social media, any of that stuff. The guy was not touted like Ohtani was or anything like that, but it was such an exciting time. I remember being a Dodger fan and signing Hideo Nomo back then, and I feel some of that coming back. I mean, this is Hideo Nomo times 10, I guess, right? But it's kind of nice. I remember that. It was nice to see the transition, to see the culture, to see folks get behind him. I'll never forget when he threw his no-hitter in Colorado. I mean, that was interesting. It was exciting. And so it's nice to see that happen again. And that was, that was what, 30 years ago or so, right? 30, I can't believe it, time flies. But here we are again. And I think that's really, really exciting to see that and to sign these players from overseas and see what happens at Dodger Stadium around that. Because these are things that happen when we got Fernando Valenzuela in the 80s. Not that I remember, I was barely born back then, but just from what you see. And so these are these moments that we have that we're privileged to as Dodger fans. Every decade or so often, every generation, we see these things happen. And we're doing it again. And I think this is just really exciting to see. I really hope the city, the community, it looks like we are embracing it, going to have a lot of fun around this. And so now we just got to win, because the nostalgia will die very quickly if the team falls way, way short, right? And so, but it's exciting to see all the murals and all that are going to go up and that are already going up. So,
and once again, you've got the Dodgers at the forefront, like you said, Fernando, Nomo, like all of that stuff. Teams love to hate us, but we also bring we're building history in our own way, whether we have a target on our back or not. Our fan base at least can recognize what's happening and we can celebrate it. So.
Juice Nero's said, would Hideo Nomo survive the pitch clock nowadays? Can we talk about that? I know we didn't get on here to talk about that, but did I read that right? Did they just make it tighter, the pitch clock now, MLB, with runners in scoring position? Now it's down to 18 seconds from 20?
Yeah, I think with runners on, yeah, they chopped off.
Am I the only one that think that's too far? I mean, if anything, I feel like we could have added a couple of extra seconds. I felt after a year of what we saw, the game almost moved a little too fast, in my opinion.
Well, I think some of the backing to that was, I think the pitcher released the ball with they still had 7 or 8 seconds left to go, so they figured, hey, we can probably shave off a little bit more off that time.
Okay.
And I think the Players Association released a statement today that they weren't embracing any more changes from whatever was coming out of the MLB, because they want to wait, see what happens after this year, do another year of research and see how that's playing out, because we've made a lot of quick changes. We took away foreign substances last year midway through the season. We don't know what impact that had on pitchers. We saw a lot more injuries. We don't know if that's related or not. And then you've got the pitch clock. Is that contributing to some pitchers? Is it not? And they just have to suck it up and get used to it. But I think having a little more data isn't going to hurt anybody.
But that's also one reason why I was a little bit surprised that they made more changes so quickly after only 1 year. I mean, Roger did make a good point. I guess the data was so strong that 7 or 8 extra seconds, according to what you said, I guess that makes sense. That might have been an obvious one. But I feel like now they got excited, and now they're just making changes way too quick. And I don't know. I'm not a super purist of the sport per se, but I like to see things get exciting. But I don't know. At the same time, I'd like to see them cool it for a little bit with some of the changes that baseball's trying to make. I obviously the pitch clock was a success. Apparently, I don't know, by a few different measures. I'd love to see what that meant in terms of concessions and sales. I've always thought that with a faster game, you're going to sell less at the concession stands, less beer sales, all those things. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. It was interesting to see some of the changes and they're also expanding the lane. I believe I read that. Is that correct? From
yeah, going to first base. Yeah,
going to first base.
They're giving them more of the lane there.
Yeah.
So real quick as we start wrapping up. So just an option says, Jason, you have a broadcaster voice. That's because Jason is the voice of the South Bay Lakers. So that's, I mean, if you've heard him, you've probably heard him at some of those games, and he's actually done some Laker games as well, right, Jason?
I did 2 Laker games. So here's a trivia. Only one other person has ever done a Lakers game in the last 26 years other than LT, Lawrence Tanner. And that was yours truly. But yeah, that was 2 games in 2018 because he was out sick and I filled in for LT. And I was also at LAFC. So I was the inaugural announcer. So if any of you ever been to an LAFC game in 2018, the very first season, I was the announcer their first year. They're at what used to be Bank of California. Right now it's BMO Stadium. But yeah, thank you very much.
So yeah, so I think we'll start wrapping up. We'll try and get Juan, Cody, Alonso, Alicia on hopefully maybe even tomorrow or through the weekend, or if not next week, we'll go back live and kind of get their reaction to Yamamoto. He's a Dodger for 12 years, $325 million. We're still waiting on more information as far as opt-outs. We did hear that there are a couple opt-outs in the deal, but we don't know when those are to occur. So we're still waiting on that. Hopefully we get some more info on that, and we'll keep you guys posted on that.
Thanks to everybody who hopped in. We got a lot of people in the chat engaging. Great job, guys. This was a total last minute thing for us, for you too. Just having you guys on here, it means the world to us. So thank you.
And let's try to find the Prince of Darkness. Maybe he's in one of these chats as a fake trying to throw us off here. But no, we missed the guy. So
yeah, so we'll be on tentatively. We have a live scheduled for next Wednesday. So if you catch us for sure next Wednesday, but like I said, we might go on sooner than that to get some of the others' reaction to the Yamamoto deal. And as we get more info, like I said, we'll post it. So any last words from you guys?
We got Yamamoto. What a great night.
All we need is Syndergaard as our pitching coach, and we're ready to go.
Oh, we can bring Syndergaard back. I know he's a free agent, so I know you'd love that, Jason. So you never know. Hey, they might have a couple $1 million to throw his way, and
give him a haircut. He's ready to go.
All right, you guys have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
See ya.
Bye.